Welcome back to AI Unraveled, your strategic daily briefing on the business impact of artificial intelligence. It is Thursday, December 4th, 2025, and the tables have officially turned. 3 years ago, Google declared a code red in panic over ChatGPT. Today, it is OpenAI declaring the emergency. We are breaking down Sam Altman's urgent pivot, Amazon's massive unleashing of autonomous agents at reInvent, and the rumored $300 billion IPO that could redefine the market. Plus, why Waymo's taxis are learning to break the rules, and the new leader in thinking algorithms that just upset the hierarchy. Let's unravel the news.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really strapping in for a look at the AI arms race.
It really is an arms race, isn't it?
It feels like it's a war being fought on multiple fronts all at once. You have the models themselves, then you have these autonomous agents that are designed to, replace you at work.
And then the big one, the thing nobody was really talking about until now, is this looming trillion-dollar infrastructure crisis to actually power it all.
Right.
We're officially past the, let's call it the prototype phase of 2023. This is full stack deployment now.
Which means what? Intense competition.
Intense competitive pressure, yeah, but also these huge structural challenges. The AI economy is finally hitting, economic reality, and it's forcing all the big players to make some really dramatic, but probably painful strategic shifts.
So our mission today is to cut through some of that noise, give you a clear picture of where the industry actually stands. We're going to unpack what's going on with OpenAI, Anthropic, Amazon.
And then we have to confront the staggering economic and energy realities of this whole boom.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the top. The competitive dynamic. OpenAI, you'd think they'd be comfortable, but they are reportedly feeling some intense heat.
Oh, absolutely. The big news is that CEO Sam Altman declared what they're calling a code red internally.
A code red, why?
It's a direct response to recent advances from Google's models.
So it's a crucial inflection point. This code red led to a pretty immediate internal shift in focus.
A huge shift. They reportedly pulled resources away from some of their longer-term revenue bets. Things like advertising, some of the more complex agent initiatives.
Put them where?
All back into pure capability dominance, improving the core consumer experience. So better personalization, speed, image generation, the basics.
That's so significant, though, because it's like a tactical retreat. They're moving away from monetization back to just being the best, to keeping that lead.
Exactly. They're fast-tracking models to do it.
We're hearing about some aggressive new deployment schedules.
Yeah, including a new reasoning model they've codenamed Shallotpeat. And it's reportedly, on internal benchmarks at least, already beating Google's Gemini 3. But the real big one is a larger project, codenamed Garlic, which is targeting a 2026 release.
Garlic sounds like a major step. Is this GPT 5.2 or like 5.5?
It's something in that range. But what's really interesting is the specific goal. They're aiming it squarely at solving previous pre-training issues.
Can you just break that down for us? What does solving pre-training issues actually mean?
Sure. So when you scale these models up, you start to discover these fundamental flaws in the architecture.
Okay.
So solving pre-training issues means tackling things like poor long-term memory, which really limits a model's context, or the hallucination rate, which is still a stubborn problem.
So they're going for a release that really changes the platform's reliability, not just making it bigger.
That's the goal, a fundamental shift in efficiency and reliability.
Which is fascinating to me is the role reversal. A few years ago, back in 2022, it was Google declaring its own emergency after ChatGPT came out.
Right, and now, 3 years later, it's OpenAI's lead that's under a really serious threat, and not just from Google.
You mean other players are getting in the game?
Speaking of major players,
yeah.
Anthropic is not just sitting on the sidelines. They are showing, just massive financial ambition.
And leveraging it into actual physical resources.
Absolutely. They are reportedly getting ready for one of the largest IPOs ever.
The numbers are staggering. They're pursuing a private funding round that values the company at over $300 billion.
With a huge investment from Nvidia, which is critical.
It is, but look where that money's going. That kind of valuation is what's supporting this huge infrastructure commitment. We're talking a $50 billion AI infrastructure build-out.
And this is just, renting some compute time from AWS.
No, this is them buying land, building their own data centers in places like Texas and New York.
So the real insight here is that the top AI companies are shifting. They're going from just being software developers to becoming like vertically integrated infrastructure companies.
Like a utility provider.
Precisely. They're betting that owning the silicon, owning the power connection, that's the only way to really scale and control your costs in the long run.
And their product side is fueling that. Anthropic acquired the JavaScript runtime bun.
Yeah. And that was a very specific move to improve the performance of their Claude Code agent tool. And that platform is clearly working.
Because it hit $1 billion in annual run rate revenue?
In just 6 months. 6 months after it became available. That kind of rapid monetization just validates the entire strategy.
Okay, so this is where it gets, I think, really interesting. If we shift from that model war to the enterprise stack, and specifically Amazon Web Services,
Right.
at their big reInvent conference, they basically stood up and said, we want to be the AI everything store.
It was a massive statement of intent. I mean, they unveiled new foundation models, their own high-end Trainium 3 AI chips, a whole model training service.
And development agents. They are pushing to compete on basically every single facet of this boom.
Building a whole ecosystem for their big corporate clients.
And their new in-house models, the Nova 2 family, they reflect a really specific philosophy.
Yeah, they have Nova Lite for, cheap and fast reasoning. Then there's Pro for the really complex stuff.
Sonic for human-like conversation, and Omni, which is their unified multimodal one.
And it all goes back to what the AWS CEO Matt Garman said. He made it clear they never believed that there was going to be one model to rule them all.
Which is what drives this whole diverse offering strategy.
And that philosophy leads you straight to their most powerful enterprise tool, which is called Nova Forge.
Right. So this system lets customers create their own custom models, their novella variants.
By inserting their own proprietary data early in the training process, they get to combine their secret sauce with Amazon's massive training data.
Which sounds incredibly valuable for a big company that needs a domain-specific edge. But doesn't that create a kind of vendor lock-in? You're sacrificing control for that convenience.
That is the critical question, isn't it? Amazon is betting that the efficiency you gain by customizing the model at that deep pre-training level, that it outweighs any fear of being locked in.
So the value is shifting. It's moving away from the general foundation model and more toward the proprietary data pipeline.
And the customization tools, that's where the enterprise value is now.
But this strategy kind of blurs the lines around what we even consider to be cutting edge. I saw Infotech Research raised a good point about whether a domain-specific model can really be called a frontier model.
And it's an important distinction to make.
So what's the difference we need to keep in mind?
A true frontier model is defined by its ability to push the general bounds of AI capability. General reasoning, general knowledge.
The everything model.
Right. A domain-specific model, say one built just for financial analysis or for medical transcription, it's optimized for a super narrow use case. It might be amazing at that one task, but it doesn't advance the general state of AI.
Which is why some researchers are skeptical when AWS claims to have multiple frontier models.
Exactly.
Okay, let's pivot from the models to the actual products. The things designed to replace human tasks. The autonomous agents. Amazon unveiled Kiro, their new coding agent. And the capabilities are, well, they're astonishing.
Kiro is designed to write production code for days without any human supervision.
It maintains what they call persistent context across those sessions, right?
Yes, and that is key. It's tackling a huge technical challenge that's known as the context window problem.
Can you just quickly define that context window problem for us?
Sure. So historically, an AI model working on a big project would often just forget the earlier instructions or coding standards. It's like short-term memory loss.
Okay.
Kiro's ability to maintain that context means it can scan existing products to learn the team's coding standards and then reliably update maybe 15 different corporate apps in a single assignment. It solves the memory challenge.
And it's not working alone. It's part of an ecosystem with an AWS security agent and a DevOps agent.
So it's an assembly line of software robots, identifying vulnerabilities, handling performance testing, all of it automatically.
And this whole push toward autonomous systems is maturing everywhere, not just in code. It's moving into the physical world.
Often with some pretty absurd consequences. If you look at transportation, Waymo, the robotaxi company, they actually reprogrammed their fleet to be confidently assertive.
Confidently assertive. That just sounds like marketing speak for, what, driving like a slightly annoyed human?
That's precisely what it is. They are mimicking human habits to get around in dense cities.
So what, like cutting off other drivers?
Cutting off drivers to make a turn, performing rolling California stops instead of a full stop, crossing a double yellow line to get around a parked delivery truck. All of it.
So the engineers basically realized that strictly following the law makes the cars too slow and disruptive.
So the software now has to mimic necessary human flaws to actually be efficient in the real world.
I even heard local police recently pulled over one of these robotaxis for making an illegal U-turn.
That's right. And it just highlights the path to real-world autonomy often means the AI has to integrate this sort of human-like ambiguity and, occasional rule bending.
Meanwhile, you've got these autonomous challengers popping up outside the big tech bubble.
OpenAI. It just came out of stealth with a model called Lux, and it reportedly outperforms Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic in autonomously controlling a computer through the user interface.
And while those giants are focused on proprietary agents, there's also this really strong counter movement happening in open source.
Which is critical for pushing costs down. The French startup Mistral is really carrying that torch in Europe.
They just released Mistral 3, which has 10 open-weight models.
And the small Mistral variants are incredibly important. We're talking 3B, 8B, 14B models. These can run on consumer hardware, laptops, drones, even without an internet connection.
Proving that capability doesn't always need a billion-dollar data center behind it.
But on the flip side of that, you see some really concerning ethical issues coming out of the big players' rush for engagement.
You have to talk about Google Discover.
We do. They're experimenting with replacing publisher headlines with AI summaries on some phones.
And it has resulted in what's being called clickbait chaos.
It's generating text that is just factually wrong. Like, it misreported the price of the steam machine when a price hadn't even been announced.
And the really frustrating part for anyone who cares about editorial integrity is that the little disclosure, the part that says generated with AI, is often hidden.
Right. It's behind a button or it's minimized, so users think the actual news website wrote this confusing nonsense.
So when you zoom out from all of these rapid-fire developments, what does it all mean for the future? I mean, it seems to point to this unavoidable reckoning with infrastructure.
The sheer cost and energy required for this level of competition are, I think, reaching an economic breaking point.
Which is why you're hearing leaders start to sound the alarm.
Exactly. IBM CEO Arvind Krishna, he did some back-of-the-napkin math and basically said there's no way that spending trillions on AI data centers will pay off at today's costs.
He calculated that $8 trillion of capital expenditure requires, what, $800 billion of profit?
Just to pay the interest on the debt. That's how severe the investment gap is right now.
That $8 trillion figure, though, it sounds almost astronomical. Is he just assuming there won't be any big efficiency breakthroughs?
I think it's definitely designed to shock people, but his assumption is that the rate of improvement in silicon and model architecture, it just will not offset the exponentially soaring demand for compute.
We're demanding more than Moore's Law can deliver.
We are, and that demand is showing up right on our energy grids. BloombergNEF revised its forecast for data center power demand up by 36%.
36%. And they expect it to hit 106 gigawatts by 2035.
And these new centers are just massive. Nearly a quarter of all new projects are over 500 megawatts.
This huge demand is colliding directly with grid realities. It's forcing a geographical shift.
Yeah, the once dominant Northern Virginia market is basically full. It's saturated. So new projects are going to Southern Virginia, Georgia.
Look at the PJM region, which covers that huge part of the Mid-Atlantic.
Their forecast for data center capacity, which is 31 gigawatts by 2030, nearly matches all the expected new power generation they're building. That's 28.7 gigawatts. That tension is becoming a huge public policy issue.
It's an issue that requires what Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella called social permission.
A great phrase.
He made the point that the AI industry has to earn that social permission from the public for these massive energy demands, especially when you're facing global climate pressure.
And if the industry can't build infinite power, then it has to get infinitely more efficient.
Right.
Which is a necessity that is leading to probably the most interesting structural change in the market today. And that's the rise of specialization.
Tell us about that, because efficiency seems to totally contradict the trend of just building bigger and bigger frontier models.
It does. But new research from a company called Neurometric, they study thinking algorithms. And they found this really counterintuitive insight. Right. That model performance varies dramatically on a per-task basis. So that huge general-purpose model you're paying top dollar for, it might be wildly inefficient for, say, 90% of your company's actual tasks.
So the key takeaway is you don't always need a nuclear reactor to power a light bulb.
That is a perfect analogy. The core insight is that small language models, like the ones we saw from Mistral, they're proving to be much more task-specific.
Meaning they run faster, perform better for that one job, and they're dramatically cheaper.
Exactly. Cheaper than always relying on a giant frontier model. And this is driving a whole new trend of product development, tools aimed at helping companies pick the right, small, specialized model for their specific workloads. It's the only way to escape the cost curve.
This has been a whirlwind deep dive into the AI arms race. We've covered the hyper-competition forcing these code-red retreats at OpenAI.
The relentless full-stack push by giants like Amazon to control the whole infrastructure and data pipeline.
And, of course, the critical cost and energy reckoning that's now underway that's demanding this new efficiency.
And if you connect all of that to the bigger picture, the age of the single massive general-purpose model, it's being tempered by economic reality.
The shift is towards specialization.
Whether it's through domain-specific models like Nova Forge or just the raw efficiency of these task-specific small models, it's a necessary answer to the universal problems of scale and, astronomical cost.
And this brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. We've discussed how the future of AI seems to favor specialization, with task-specific models replacing generalists as the most economically viable tools. Given that the algorithms are rapidly advancing to automate complex tasks, what does that teach us about the career value of being a deep specialist versus a broad generalist human in this new economic landscape?
Till next time.
That wraps up today's briefing. The signal for today is urgency. OpenAI is scrambling to protect its lead, Amazon is flooding the zone with enterprise agents, and the energy grid is blinking red. The pace is accelerating, and the wait-and-see strategy is officially obsolete. And speaking of strategy, if you need your leadership team to move at this speed, you can't rely on generic newsletters. Stop marketing to the masses. Start briefing the C-suite. Leverage our zero-noise intelligence to own the conversation in your industry. Etienne Newman, senior software engineer and our producer and creator of this AI Unraveled podcast, can build your custom 5 to 10-minute AI-powered audio briefings specifically for the C-suite. Secure your strategic podcast consultation now. Email us at info@jamgatech.com or fill up the form in the show notes. Until tomorrow, keep unraveling the future.